Hi guys, my name is Roger, and I'm building a mid-engine supercar in the basement of my home. Let's take a look at what I've been working on this week. Well, welcome back to the channel, guys. We have a new addition to the basement supercar build channel, and my wife bought me a toolbox, which is something I've been looking at for a while, but she bought me this for my birthday, which is coming up here pretty soon, and was looking at them, trying to decide what kind of quality I wanted, how much I wanted to spend on them. And I decided, since I'm just doing this mostly as a hobby, that I didn't need anything expensive, and the Harbor Freight version here would be sufficient for me. So I have moved all of my tools, which were scattered all over the place, into my toolbox and organized them. And I've got several things already out of the drawer, but this held the majority of my tools. Wrenches and sockets. I have every drawer full. There are pneumatic tools, electric tools, measuring devices, levels, everything. I noticed that my wrench set was missing 1 or 2 wrenches. My socket set was missing about 4 or 5 different sockets I'd lost through the years. My tool set is probably 30 years older. So I ordered some tools to replace the missing ones. I bought a set of these ratcheting wrenches here. I ordered all of these tools from Temu. To be honest, I got this wrench set, this socket set, which is full of sockets. It's hundreds of sockets, and a screwdriver set, which hasn't arrived yet. I got all of these tools for $200. And I just wanted to take the chance and see, if I waste $200 on these tools, so be it. But I wanted to check the quality, and I'm impressed. I have to say, for what they cost, how much cheaper they are than some brand name tools, they should last quite a while. If I was doing this as a professional job, a mechanic or something, I would never buy this brand of tools. But for what they cost, I'm rolling the dice, and I've been happy with what I've seen so far. Just for instance, this is the kit I got is mostly sockets, but there's a full set of wrenches here, Allen wrenches, short and long. This drawer is 1/4 inch drive, sockets, deep wells, nut drivers, Torx, Allen wrenches, a set of 3/8 drive sockets, just a full set of standard and metric. And the same thing here, 1/4 inch drive, and all these screwdriver tips. For the money, I couldn't pass it up. So anyway, we have a lot of new tools and things to use here on the channel to help finish the car, and I just wanted to show you this, and we will get back to work. In the last video, we were making this mold for this right side rear valence part, and I'm still working on this. I've been sanding and puttying on it quite a while, and I have about 99% of the mold ready to go. Everything is ready for the first coat of primer, except for this one area. Because of the limitations of my CNC on the Z-axis being about 5 1/4 inches, when I machine this, the limitations, height limitations, and I machine this part to the height limitations, there's a void area here. And I thought I could fill this in with Bondo and work it into where I'd be happy with it. And I worked on it a few hours and just gave up and decided that I would never get this shape in here to where I was happy with it or comfortable that it was shaped right. This is the corner of the car where it meets the fender, and if that shape is not perfect, it's going to be very visible. So I cut the Bondo out, and what I'm doing is I am CNCing a block to fit in this area. I'll glue that in and work it in, and then that'll ensure that this inside shape here is perfect. And honestly, it's only going to take probably an hour to CNC this little small part, an hour at most. So that will be much faster than the way I was going about it originally, and that piece is on the CNC cutting now. So once I get that worked in, I can put the first coat of primer on this mold and then start block sanding and working it in, getting it ready. It is Saturday around noon now, so there's no way I'm going to be able to make this part this weekend, but hopefully I'll have this mold ready next weekend to make a part, unless some problem arises that I don't foresee now, but it should be ready. And also, both of these pieces are cut for the rear diffuser. I think one of them was finished in the last video. The other one finished yesterday. So they are both here. I need to cut a blank out of this big sheet of MDF large enough to glue both of those pieces on and have a flange around the perimeter to make the part out of carbon fiber and do the vacuum infusion process. I need a flat area around the perimeter of it for the vacuum infusion. So that is next on my list. I'm getting ready to cut this out. Right after that, I'm going to clean the basement. It is crazy dusty down here. It is a disaster. But I wanted to cut this last piece here and make the last sawdust that I'm going to do for the weekend before I clean. But that brings you up to speed on what I'm doing. So my weekend is going to be doing a lot of sanding and puttying and priming, trying to get this mold and this mold ready to make parts next weekend. Since this mold is so much easier to finish and the carbon fiber part is going to be easy to make, this is a really simple part to make. I'm going to put this mold in front of the other one. If all goes well, I'll be making this part next Saturday and this part next Sunday. But we will just have to see how it goes. I should be able to get at least one of these parts finished, and maybe both. Both of them would be awesome. But that brings you up to speed, and let me get busy on these parts and see how much I can get done this weekend. Well, I managed to get these parts finished sanding them and primed them yesterday, both parts. So they're looking good. They have a very thick coat of primer on both of them. I'm going to start by sanding this mold first, the rear diffuser, and see if it'll need a second coat of primer or not. I'm hoping if I wet sand this down, that the primer is thick enough that I can just go ahead and finish this mold without having another coat of primer. There were a couple spots that were questionable, but we'll see how it goes. It'll be great if I don't have to put a second coat on this one. I know that the rear corner where the tail light goes will definitely need a second coat of primer, but there's a lot of sanding to do on that one first. And also I ordered the carbon fiber sheets here to make the fins for the rear diffuser. This is a pattern for one of the fin sizes. There's 4 different sizes actually. There's 8 fins, 4 on the left, 4 on the right, and each fin is a slightly different size and shape where it contacts the diffuser here. So I've laid the pattern out, and I can fit 4 fins or all 4 fins for each side on one sheet of carbon fiber. And I have 2 sheets here, so they just barely fit, but all looks like it's going to work well. And I bought these on Amazon. They are 5 millimeters thick, solid carbon fiber. And let's see if I can pull back here. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's a really nice piece. And I looked at buying these and making them, and I bought both of these sheets for $300. It was going to cost that much for me to buy a couple of pieces of glass and the carbon fiber and resin. It would have cost about the same for me to make the parts, and it would have taken quite a while. So I went ahead and purchased these. They look like they're going to work great. I have the CNC program laid out, and we will cut these sometime here in the next several days. But I'm tight on time to get both of these molds ready by the weekend to make a part, and I'm going to try to do that. I am definitely going to make a part on this weekend, and we'll see if I can get both of them done or not. But let me get to work on these. I have a lot of sanding to do tonight, and we'll see how it goes. Well, I have a little update for you guys. I just put the final coat of primer on this mold, and it's looking pretty good. I think you can maybe see there in the reflection of the light, it looks pretty slick. It'll just need to dry until tomorrow, and then it'll be ready to wet sand. And the other mold is finished. I finished block sanding it. Luckily I had enough primer on the one coat, or the first time that I primed it, it was several coats, that I didn't need to put a second coat of primer on it or second round of primer. I was able to block sand down to get this smooth and wet sand it, and I put the first coat of wax on it tonight. So this mold needs 5 more coats of wax and then a coat of clear coat, and it'll be ready to make a part this weekend. I will make this part Saturday, and if all goes well and I get everything finished and feel like it, I'll try to make this part Saturday. It's a busy weekend to make 2 parts. It's a full day's work to do it. Okay guys, it is early Saturday morning and I have these 2 molds finished. The one that we're going to make today here has the gel coat sprayed on it. It is ready to go. I'm going to carry this up to the garage and try to make this part today. And then I need to spray the one in the back with a gel coat this afternoon, so it'll be ready to make a part tomorrow. So if everything goes well this weekend, we should have 2 parts to start delaminating and trimming and fitting next week. So it'll give us plenty to work on next week. But let me get this mold up to the garage and see if we can get a rear diffuser part made successfully, and we'll see how it goes. And if I don't forget, maybe I'll film part of that process. I know it's loud out here. I have the vacuum pump on. I just wanted to show you guys this. I'm doing the resin infusion process. This is where the epoxy starts. It goes down this tube and into, I have some spiral wrap tubing running from end to end to transfer an even flow of epoxy. And you can see the dark color here. This is the epoxy rising up to fill the part. It's filling all the way across. And this went really fast. I have shut the epoxy off going in to give it a chance to catch up, because I'm using a larger tube on the inlet and the epoxy flows extremely fast. So I'm just giving it a chance to the epoxy that's in it to move and start saturating the cloth, so I don't put too much epoxy in initially and waste it, because it's very expensive. Okay, well, it is Sunday morning. We're out in the garage again, and I made this rear diffuser part yesterday. Here's the mold laying here. You can see by all of the scraps laying on the mold that I have taken the part off, moved the part to the basement. It's not perfect, but I think it's good enough to use. A little disappointed in the outcome. I was hoping to use this part as raw carbon instead of having to paint it, but I don't think it turned out well enough, and I'll show you why later. But today I've brought this second mold for the right rear corner of the car here to the garage, and I'm getting ready to start laying this up to make this part today. See here, I have the oven opened up where I removed this first part yesterday, and this will be an all-day adventure, but let me get started laying this part up, and let's see if we can make a good part, see how it turns out. Hopefully we'll have another part to use, and it'll be a very productive weekend. But let me get started on this and let's see what happens. Okay, so we were able to finish 2 parts this weekend. This is the second part we made. I made this part Sunday, and this is what it looks like when I take it right out of the oven. The part is still on the mold, and I will remove that sometime. Won't be tonight, but in the next couple of days. And because of the undercuts around the perimeter to get the edges for the glue flanges, I'll have to break this mold in half, just like I did. This one's sitting here in the floor on the other side, and that takes a little bit of time and effort to get that mold split in half and get the part out, but we'll do that later. This is the first part we made Saturday. This is the rear diffuser. It's been removed from the mold and is ready to be trimmed. And also, in between making these 2 parts, I cut out these ribs here, are the fins for the rear diffuser. And these are the left set and this is the right set. There's 4 different sizes. They're all just a little bit different. And you can see the pattern maybe on these carbon fiber parts. They're 5 millimeters thick, and they have tabs on them to tab into the other part and glue in place. So I need to come up with some clever way to locate those and trim the slots in the diffuser to accept these fins, so they'll be located in the correct position and square or parallel with each other. But I have a game plan on that. But first, I guess the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and trim out this diffuser around the perimeter and kind of hold it up to the car, see if it's going to fit, and then we'll take a look and see what all of this looks like. But we had a really productive weekend. Now I've just got to get these parts trimmed out and fit and glued in place. Actually, this one will glue in place and the diffuser will bolt into place. But let me get started trimming this out and we'll take a look at it once I'm done. Well, I have an update for you. You can tell by the mess here that there are wood pieces and parts everywhere, which indicates that it was hard to get this mold off the part. In fact, this is what the part looks like. The mold is stuck to it everywhere. And started trying to pry this apart. It's taken me 2 days to get to this point. So was trying to figure out why this part stuck so badly when the one before it, the diffuser over here, came right out of the mold without any problems. And I was sitting around thinking, well, what could I have possibly done different between the two molds, because I did one on Saturday and one on Sunday, and I didn't change any of my processes. And then I happened to think I didn't remember waxing this mold. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized that I did forget to wax the mold, which is a huge mistake and created a disaster. But I'm having to pry the mold off of the part piece by piece, or little tiny pieces, and work my way down carefully, trying not to destroy the part. And this is going to take me probably a week to clean this part up to make it usable, a week of really hard work. But the alternative is to make a new mold and make a new part, which would take probably 2.5 to 3 weeks to complete. So I believe I'm going to try to salvage this, and what I can do is take this down to where I'm just above touching the part, and like here I've done in this area, you can see, and then I can take and sand the wood that's stuck to the part down to the gel coat here. There's places it's pulled gel coat off, so I'll have to take and Bondo or high build primer or something and build these places up and block sand them back down, which is really disappointing. But I guess that's what I'm going to have to do, no matter how long it takes. I believe I can do it inside of a week. I still have quite a bit of time left to pry the rest of these wood pieces off or cut them off. What I was doing is, once I got it down to this level here, was taking this small block plane and planing down just before touching the gel coat, and then sanding the last little bit off. And it went pretty fast. It wasn't horrible to do, so I think that's my way out of this, to save this part and use it. I'm really disappointed in myself right now, but that's what happens when you try to rush, I guess, and get 2 parts done in one weekend. I just missed a step and it just totally slipped my mind. But on a positive note, I did manage to trim out the rear diffuser. It is to the correct shape. I might need to sand the edges just a little in some places. I need to cut out a notch, which you may not be able to see, drawn on this paper here. This is where the back of the rear end sticks through, or just barely sticks through into the diffuser. It's just a clearance hole. I have all of my fins laying here, and I have pictures of the fins, which I'm going to use to locate the fin placement on the part itself, and then I can draw the lines where the ribs need to intersect. I'm going to have to make something to square these ribs up and draw lines, center lines, where the ribs need to go, and then I can draw the location where the holes I need to cut for the fins to align, and then glue these in place. It's going to be a time-consuming process, but if it turns out well, I think this part will look really nice when it's finished. And that will be the next thing we do, I guess, after I salvage this part here that is just disgusting to look at. But anyway, really disappointed in myself for this, but what can you do? I'll just have to salvage it, use it, and move on, I guess. On another note, I have to be in Chicago all next week for my job, so I won't make much progress next week, but I still have a few days left before I leave to try to make a little progress on these components. And that's what I'll do. I'll see how much I can get done, and then we will, once we get this part salvaged and these 2 pieces attached and on the rear of the car, the rear end of the car will be basically finished. So that's a plus. And on that note, I guess that's going to be about it for this week's video, and I'll see you guys again in a few weeks. Wait, before you go, I've got one more thing I want to share with you. I sanded on this part last night for about 2 hours. Well, scraped and sanded, and I have removed all of the mold off of it. So I don't think it's going to be quite as bad to salvage as I thought it was. It still needs just a little more sanding. There's a little bit of residue of the MDF on here, but it sands off fairly quickly. So I think another hour or two working on this and it'll be ready for the first coat of primer. So I guess in the next video we'll see how this part cleans up and what it looks like. But anyway, back to the closing.